Hi, and welcome back. I'm Bill Quinn, and I am just delighted once again to join Sheila Holm as we begin to tie some more of these pieces together. Sheila, thank you for being here.
It is so awesome to be able to get all of this truth out at a point where everything is starting to, the boomerangs are catching up with Sheila Holm. That's the best way I can say with it. The boomerangs are catching up with what I've been saying for a few decades. And so we're going to bring up some things from a 2014 book today. The second edition will be coming out soon, but the original was written in 2014. And all of this is coming full circle right now.
It really is. We've seen, you and I have traded notes just today on some things that are showing up from elsewhere that are in direct parallel with what you've been saying in our previous broadcast. Before we do the next piece, I do want to say thank you. I've noticed that we've had one heck of a lot of people send in very nice comments regarding your work and the information that you're bringing out. We appreciate that, and we'd ask you to continue to watch and also bring some of your friends if you can. Clue them in, because I think they're going to need the same information. So we appreciate everybody's comments and feedback, and especially those outside the U.S. We've seen quite a number of people come in to learn more. So thank you for that. How shall we begin, Sheila?
Let's start with a little video, a little surprise video. Those of you who went to Reawaken, you've seen this before, but this is a powerful video as an intro video. When I gave the audio and the wording to LT of And We Know, a lot of you know LT. When I gave it to him for our first interview, I was the first person he ever interviewed. Because he wasn't doing that before, and it was kind of fun. And he did this intro. It's kind of a fancy little intro. You're going to see his logo, and then you're going to love what's revealed in this short little video.
Okay, great. Well, let me get set up here, and here we go.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations.
What a great video. How wonderful.
Just a little summary of kind of what was going on at the point, because the Georgia Guidestones just went down, and I just found the Soldier Monument, and we've talked about the Soldier Monument. So we're living in amazing times. But what we're gonna kind of show, because guys, this dovetails with exactly what's in points 42 and points 37 and 36 in the new book. 42, 37, and 36. So those of you who have the new book, great. And those of you who want to look at it as an ebook, if you click on the sound, it'll read it to you. But if you want to look at it as the ebook, you can see all these things in color. In the printed books, it's just black and white. And so Kindle and ebooks are all in color. And so, but if you look at this book that we're going to insert today, it's called Nation Restoration. And Nation Restoration came out in 2014. And when I was asked in 21 to urgently get out number 2, because I didn't have a number 2, they said, we want the second edition. And I said, oh, it's just my story. And they go, well, it's from 2014. I said, yeah, I know. It's been since I came to Georgia. It's enough of my story. Who needs more of a trauma drama story with everything that was going on then, guys? I mean, this is back in 21. And now, boom, it's all coming full circle. So the information, we're going to go briefly into this because it relates to points 42, 37, and 36 in the new book. Okay, we'll handle the other points the next time because that has a completely different focus, but it's related to this. Starts with student unrest, then the destruction of the family, and then it goes into control and manipulate corporations, business, all the unions, and expand the number of unions. And so that's what we're going to get. That's what we've gotten into with the symbols before. But in this book, this is where they were doing the student visa infiltration into America of soldier age, mainly men. And so then the men, after 12 years, had already registered for 2 colleges with their student union or student visas, never were students of the universities. And we looked at the fact that this is what was happening. And since that was happening, we didn't realize how many there were or how big this was. And we didn't realize the other layers of this. So I prepared a little chart that you can look at. And it's just a summary. This is back when they were changing my Social Security numbers. And they still did this up to 2024. And so everything goes back. And these are the years when I was changing ID. From 92, I thought it was 93. It was 92, 95, 98. All these changes kept happening. But every time I met with the FBI, they gave me the new numbers. So this is just a brief summary of all the detail that's in the book. Because when they were doing 7,000 and then they went bumped to 70,000 and then 700,000, I told the guys, and that's when I helped write the first identity theft law in 98. I said, they're turning this into a business. This is a research and development phase because I'm a business person. And then I was a business coach after what happened with my corporation. And so I was explaining to them the business level that they were in. And I said, if we don't do something to stop this right now, they're going to turn their business plan into a marketing and development. And by the time they get in the promotion phase, you're going to be seeing millions and millions of people a year. The reason why I'm emphasizing this book right now is that this book reveals, because people are saying that are right-hand side of Elon Musk, that during the 4 years that Biden was in, either 4 million, 6 million, 8 million came into our country. Guys, that it doesn't even begin to compare with how many are really coming into this country and have already infiltrated this country, and they never went home. None of these people on student visas ever go home. So this is what was happening back at that time, when you'll see by 98. Now, these figures, here's what's really funny. These figures are only the people who reported identity theft cases to the Federal Trade Commission. I was getting new ID every few months. I had these cases against me, but I didn't have anywhere that I knew to file them. And the FBI was telling me that we have to write laws. So I helped in 98. By 2003, you see how the numbers had increased. By 2003, I wrote my own talking points memo at the invitation of the Senate Banking and Finance Committee, because every day I was faxing a summary of how this is happening in America. And these people that are reporting to you are giving you an example. And let me tell you what the numbers really look like. And I'm telling them every day how this relates and what the people are saying and why they're saying this and how this is happening. I'm explaining it every day. And the FBI became so intrigued, they had me send a copy to them every day. Okay, so all this was going on back in 91, 92. By 93, I had everything documented, everything together, sent it to the Senate Banking Finance Committee. And in 2004, that's when that new identity theft law came out. Now in 98, when the law came out, they still weren't arresting people. And I said, what's wrong? They said, we need a penal code. I said, you guys, fraud is fraud. These people are committing fraud against our nation. I didn't say they're committing fraud against the people. I was focused on the fact they're committing fraud against America because they're coming in and doing this. Because, guys, there's other layers. There's other layers to this, and that's the layers that Kennedy was just speaking about. And then by that time of 98, 1 million people reported cases to the Federal Trade Commission. Now, by the time I write the law in 2003, the talking points, it becomes law in 2004. It was going to be the home identity theft law, raw. My mom and dad were going to know truth was coming out and that what Sheila was saying was real. They called it the second identity theft law. And when I called them, and all this is in my book, when I called them and said, what are you doing? My family was all tuned in to the press conference in the Rose Garden when he signed on July 15 of 2004. And they were waiting for you to say the home identity theft law. And you just said the second identity theft law. And they said, ma'am, you should just be honored to know that you've been able to serve your country. I'm like,
Oh,
you
goodness.
don't understand. You don't even begin to understand trying to explain this to your family. And so look at this, almost 30 million. And that's only FTC. That is none of my cases. It's none of the majority of people in America didn't know if you've got a case of identity theft, you've got to report it. We were never told what to do. We were never assisted. We were never helped. And they went after people who owned their houses and their businesses. And within 30 days, if you can't make payroll and et cetera by the fraud credit on your credit bureau as a business owner, you're out of business. You can't pay payroll. The dominoes just start to fall and you can't recover. And nobody helped any businesses. Nobody helped any homeowners. Nobody came through for us. So what did they do in 2003? They actually came up with a financial program. It's all in the book. The financial program was funded for 3 main banks, top banks, and they gave free down payments. They subsidized the whole down payment for the house. Then they helped them get a low interest loan that we couldn't get. And then they helped them with, of course, lower payments. And then they never controlled how many were living in the house. Because in America, you can only have 2 in each bedroom and 1 on a sofa. That's why when the Chinese came in, they took the houses down to the ground. They built the house from property line to property line. So they ended up with 12 bedrooms, 15 bedrooms. So then that's 2 per bedroom and 1 on the sofa. Do you see what I mean? So they're staying with the law. But can you and I build a house from property line to property line and get away with it? I'm just saying, just offering.
Not in this county, we can.
Yeah. And so what happened is when they did this, when you see these numbers, and the horrible thing is the FBI and Secret Service were tasked with this crime. It was finally considered a crime. But are you ready for this? They already knew they were all foreign nationals. And what did you hear in the newspaper? When somebody's cousin used their number, when some son used their parents' number. Do you know what they told me in credit repair? Get your mother's social security number. You got to get a female social security number of someone in your family. And so then when they were filing cases and putting those people in jail and prison in America, and they're Americans trying to help their relatives, my mom said, sure, use my social security number. You got to get through this. I said, Mom, to me, that's fraud. And I was trying to explain to her, but Sheila, you got to get through this. And my parents never would have wanted me to commit fraud, but there was no way to come through this. But none of these illegals have ever been arrested. And you'll see another example in this book where a woman in California who stayed at home, didn't have a job. 100 people got her social security number. She found more than 80 of them, identified them. And after all that expense to find all that research, the police went to meet with some of them. They said they just bought the social security number at a swap meet. The foreign nationals, the illegals in this country, and they're not illegal immigrants, they're illegal aliens. And I was yelled at in the 90s for using that term because they said, you're not politically correct. I said, immigration is a legal process. Illegal is illegal. They're illegal coming in. They've already committed a crime and nobody's doing anything because we didn't have penal codes. Then I get penal codes and you still have to get another law. So now with 2 identity theft laws, how many do you think they've arrested from foreign countries? They haven't. And all they do when they kill people, they just move to another state and get another social security number.
Well, and unfortunately, we saw something very much like that in Georgia recently with the person that killed Laken Riley right here in Athens. And he had moved from Texas to New York and then down here to Georgia, had been arrested a couple times, but, was clearly not still incarcerated. And that enabled him to commit the murder of Laken Riley.
Well, this is what they do. I've talked with people who have children married to these people, knowing that they killed people in other states, can't get a legal marriage certificate because there isn't a legal social security number that the person supposedly has. Their handlers give them a new number and move them to another state. That's why the guy killing 2 people in Arizona moved to Indiana and married your daughter. because that way he's got protection, and your daughter's not going to let him go because now you say you love all these grandchildren he's given you. But how would you feel if your daughter was one of those 2 people he killed in Arizona?
Yeah.
So are we a double standard nation? I mean, where are we at in this? So now think about this. These are the layers that nobody was thinking about. And now finally people are starting to understand how they undermined us by 2008, where people couldn't keep a hold of their homes. You see what's gone on here?
Yeah.
So now you look at the layers of this. And this is what they told me. The Russian in this, you'll find this in the book. There's this guy this is Kearney, Nebraska, a division of Lincoln, University of Nebraska, Lincoln. This was in December 2005. I stopped in because a friend in San Diego's son had become a microbrew, and he was the microbrewer of this pub, steak pub and microbrew. So I stopped in to say hi to him, that your mom, we're friends in San Diego, blah, blah, blah. And so we're talking, and he said, well, you got to meet the crazy Russian. Well, that was the bartender. And the place had just opened, so there wasn't anybody in there, but it was 2 stories. Really huge downstairs with the microbrew way in the back, and a lot of tables everywhere. And then you go upstairs, a lot of tables everywhere. There was 1 pool table, but the rest were all eating tables. In the time that the Russian explained this to me, the entire place was full and everyone was speaking a version of Russian. Now, were they cross-Khazarian, Ukrainian Russian, or were they, do I know? No. But they're saying now they're just figuring out on these student visas, they brought in soldier age people. So the Azov soldiers are already here. These people are already here. And the student visas, they never go home. They never go home, because this is what he told me. He said they had us fly into Chicago. Then they took us we waited until each handler got 50 people. Our handler took us to Ames, Iowa. We registered for a college there. And then we've got 5 years. So they help us get jobs, our social security numbers, our driver's licenses, et cetera. So see, they're all set up using our social security numbers, getting the jobs. Now, how do you feel about this when your kids are going to college, and in the same town where they're going to college, they can't get jobs because these people aren't going to school, so they can work 40-hour weeks. Your kids can only work in between their classes. You see where this goes? So they get the jobs. They're the ones in that town, and they're the ones that get the apartments because the handlers are already arranging the apartments and guaranteeing the rents. You see where this goes? So all of this is happening at the same time. You're sending your college age sons and daughters off to college and hope that they can supplement. Instead, what happens is all the big student loans are from who? Your kids, not from these people, because they never went to school. So after 5 years, they start looking for them. So then that's when they moved them to Kearney, Nebraska. Used to be a little teacher's college. It's a small little area in Nebraska, and right off Highway 80, but not a big town. And so then they make it a division of the University of Nebraska. And I just found out the reason why all these are coming universities, it's the only way you can transfer credits easily now. So they're making all of these locations universities. It's helping the people internationally send more children to universities that are subsidized to bring in these people, knowing that they're not doing any classes. But they said they don't look for you for 5 years. So now he's in Kearney, Nebraska, and now he's been there almost 6 years. And I said, well, now you're going to be in trouble. And he goes, oh no, ma'am, we know what to do. By this time we buy a fiance if we're here this long and we're not married to somebody in America. And I said, well, what does that do? He said, well, that gets you a green card toward citizenship.
So when you say buy a fiance, who are they buying?
They're paying $3,000. This has happened since the 80s. Mm-hmm. When the Shah fell in Iran and they brought all those people in the 70s, and everything changed. They all said they were Persian. They didn't say that they were from Iran. And all these guys were paying girls $3,000 in their freshman year, so that by the time they graduate, they get the divorce. But then they've been married. There's a number of months you have to be married in order to get a green card.
Yeah.
And so the attorneys all know this, but the attorneys are making money, so they don't care. So they end up with a divorce attorney, an immigration attorney, and they work all this out on the dates. And these guys can stay then forever because they get a green card to stay permanent, a permanent green card in America.
Wow. And when we talk about buying a fiance, that fiance is an American girl. Is that
Going to college?
going to college? I see.
Yeah, so
Holy
she's
fuck.
not married to him. She's going to college and she gets $3,000. And what he said in 2005 was the same $3,000.
Sort of like having a pen pal that happens to be a legal wife, but not your real wife.
Mm-hmm.
Holy mackerel.
And so, so he was all set. And by the time he told me this, the whole place was packed. There wasn't an empty seat in the place. And the three of us were the only ones speaking English.
Wow.
And that was in 2005. December.
In Kearney, Nebraska, you said?
Kearney, Nebraska.
Wow. Heartland, supposedly.
Well, as you guys, it's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. I mean, we thought it was mainly in Arizona, Texas, and California until I came to Georgia. But it doesn't matter. You go to Virginia, you go to no matter where you go, and now they're getting the jobs everywhere, and they never get arrested. I mean, back on Bill O'Reilly, this is a few years ago when Bill O'Reilly had his show. And Bill O'Reilly worked with some agents or U.S. Marshals or whatever, and they went in and checked out the unions. And 9 of the 15 union members were arrested, but they weren't held because nobody was going to press charges against them. None of it ever gets cleaned up. They're never held accountable. They're never deported. They're never charged with the crimes of identity theft or crossing our border illegally. They're a list of crimes, and they're not charged with any of them. They're here, and it's not just student visas; it's visitor visas. Then they bring the family members. These kids on social or student visas, their parents come on visitor visas. Do you see what I mean? Mm-hmm. And this is why President Trump's been saying chain migration just got way out of control, is that there's all of these families here, and now they're having children, and their siblings are having children. They're all here. They're having children. Those children were getting Social Security numbers the minute they were born. Our children's hospital, we almost lost it in San Diego. There were so many illegals landing in San Diego, driving across the border, coming in by boats, having their baby in children's hospital and not paying the bill because you can't get a hold of them. But they're at the stage of having this baby, so they come in America to get a Social Security number. And the story you're going to find in the book is an exact article from a real estate magazine about that 2003 program to help give the illegals the American dream. So it was so infuriating at the time because I was going through all of this stuff financially about the business, about the house, about the equity in the house, about all of these things. And nobody could understand what we were living through. And now they give them all these advantages to have the American dream. And how does this? And that's what led to 2008. It was all a buildup to 2008 when so many people lost their homes and couldn't finance and et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And that's the other problem. You hear about these recovery people. Oh, let me go over that guy first. That guy ended up using the illegal Social Security number of another citizen. Then his sister came across the border illegally, and she had a baby. So he has a nephew. So she stays at home because he's already got the job. The brother has the job. So she stays at home with the baby. The baby's Social Security number is what this man uses to get a new job. Then he holds that job for 12 years, and that qualifies him for this program. See, all of this is illegal, but that qualifies him for this program, and they only move the good credit off of those Social Security numbers onto what's called a taxpayer ID number. And how crazy is that? Did you know our government protects a taxpayer ID number? They've never protected our Social Security numbers. And the only people that go to jail are Americans using the Social Security of another American. And when that credit repair company told me to go use my mom's number, I said, that's ridiculous. And she said, you can put all your credit card debt on here and put it on your equity, and you can do this and do that. And you don't have to put it on the equity of your house, and I'll get it reduced to half. I just want to warn you guys, these commercials are a lie. If you go to a credit repair company and you get them to reduce your credit to half, so your bills are the same, but it's paid off earlier, you're paying them and the credit card company. You yourself can end it with the credit card company, because whether you end it and don't get credit for 7 years, or you go to a credit repair company and they reduce you to half and you don't get good credit for 7 years. That's what people don't realize. So they're getting you to pay them, and then you pay them every month within the bill, and the credit card company is still getting 50%, but your credit is ruined. And so if you want to just ruin your credit, don't go to a credit repair company. Actually go to the credit card company and just say, I can't pay this anymore, and cut up your credit cards. And we didn't know any of these things, but they actually told me to go get my mother's Social Security number. So when I discussed it with my mom, she said, well, sure, Sheila, if they're going to be this hard on your number, let's get you out of that number for a while till they get that number straightened out. And she thought it was really a good idea. But as Americans, as believers, we want to do the right thing.
Yeah. It seems so bizarre too for anybody to suggest that just flip your Social Security number, use somebody else's. It's non-understandable for me.
Because it's against the law. In America, there's two things that are the law about Social Security numbers. Did you know that if you use my Social Security number, a citizen uses a number of another citizen, they're automatically arrested, no questions asked, and you've got a jail term. It's automatic in America. That's the law. Did you know it's another law that you can never use that Social Security number for your identification purposes? And what has happened to that number?
Everybody asked for it to identify you in part, right?
Right. So now the illegals are being identified as Americans through a number that doesn't even belong to them in multiples against Americans who have good credit or had good credit until they did this to us. So do you see how it's flipped on us? But this isn't the first time in our history or in the history of the world that this has happened. There hasn't been a ruler of any nation across the world that there wasn't an identity theft process that happened to put the wrong people in the top positions. That it's happened everywhere. And so that's why you hear these people even fighting in England. This lineage is not who's supposed to be in charge of England. You know what I mean?
And just in the last month, we've seen, and I don't have the names in front of me at the moment, but officials in other states that have been identified as literally, in some cases, I think they might be elected officials that are not citizens. They don't have legal citizenship status, yet they're holding either high government office or high potentially elected office in some states. It's remarkable. And I don't think that until the discussion we're having today, I don't think people really understood the implications of this. This is part of the outgrowth of this plan. It would seem. We
did when we were together last week, we did the teachers union added on, right?
Yes, we have that right here.
People about the teachers union. Okay. Yep. So those are the same things they're indoctrinating the children in, and that's where the teachers are used to continue that indoctrination until they go into the unions. These are points 36 and 37. So they use these symbols, this indoctrination, for the teachers have to align with all this too. Then they have to teach this way. And then it's done. So the point 36 is expand the unions. And do you see how the Socialist Party, Workers of the World Unite, and then AFL-CIO also has one that does Workers of the World Unite. But look at the symbolism, guys. Everything is identical. Yeah. You see the one on the left appears to be Europe, but the one on the right appears to be just North America. But it's world order is what it is. It's socialism, world order, to keep a few of you working to give everybody else the benefits. It's all socialism. Wow. So, okay. So I was looking up on my Twitter to see how close it would be to the top. I just got one on a superintendent of schools, and is it for the state of Arizona? I just want to be sure on this. I just shared this, looking for the picture of the guy, but there is a superintendent of schools, and I think it's across the state of Arizona, and the guy is not even an American, has committed all sorts of crimes, everything else, and he's making over $300,000 a year.
Wow! And this is on your Twitter feed now.
This is in America, and I'm just looking at it. I'm pretty sure it's on the Twitter feed.
Okay, let me go down here. I'm Give me a minute. I'm looking.
I'm scrolling, but anyway, I'm just on tweets. Let me go to tweets and replies. I don't want to take up your time, but guys, this is the kind of stuff that we don't even really notice as to what's going on. Just like the teachers union logos. I mean, who would have guessed? Because we've had faith. I had faith in the FBI. My family had faith in the FBI. My family had more faith in the FBI than me, and they love me. You know what I mean? And so it's what we're finding out is just beyond comprehension. But the guy has a strange hairstyle, so I thought I could find it easily. But anyway, if you do a search and you ask about school superintendents, administrators, not American citizens in America who are not American citizens, it's amazing what you'll find, because we've already talked about the teachers taking oaths on Dr. Seuss books and all that kind of junk. Mm-hmm. And there's one major guy that's a superintendent out in Virginia, and some of this is in the new book, where the guy took an oath on a stack of LGBTQ books. That's what he took his oath on. It's what they're committed to. We haven't been watching the ball. And a gal in Arizona said the Bible isn't required anymore when she took an oath on some children's books because she was going to be a principal or superintendent of a school. And I think that was in Arizona. And so, but it doesn't matter what state it's in. The guy's on the East Coast, and these two gals that took these on children's books were on the West Coast. But guys, it's in their unions, in their education. But where did this start? Did you know it starts in daycare? Did you know it starts in Sunday school? Did you know it starts in that? Because they've got to do the mind by the time they're 7 or 8. They've got to collect them in the mind. And there's a wonderful woman who understands all this programming. Her name is Gina Phillips, and she used to be on Patriots Arise with me, and we were in Pennsylvania a lot. We were in Gettysburg a few times, and powerful woman of God. And she helps deprogram people and bring them out of it. And she knows all the programming, and she knows the symbolism that they're attracted to and the programming that's happened to them and how to delve into that to bring them out of it. I mean, she's so thorough. She's done this in a job for many, many years, and now she's doing private counseling. She's over in North Carolina. Her name's Gina Phillips. So look her up. She's been on Twitter and et cetera, and she reveals. So what does a monarch butterfly reveal? What does a blue butterfly reveal that has these markings? She'll go ahead and answer you right on Twitter. So she's a powerful woman.
They use those butterflies as symbols, again, for things that have been done to folks. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's part of the MK Ultra, especially the monarch butterfly. How sad is that?
Oh, it's creepy. And sometimes you will see people with tattoos that signify this so they can be spotted. Is that what I understand? Mm-hmm.
And now there's a host of a major TV program, and he's got a huge monarch right on the back of the main part of his hand, right before the finger goes all the way up to the knuckles, right before the fingers begin. And that big, and it's a monarch butterfly. Huge.
Well, it's no mistake that just in the last month, David Clemens has, called out MK Ultra as a substantial mechanism used by the government, or what we otherwise might think of as the government. We'll refer to it probably as deep state here. And it's to program people to think or to not notice, in some cases, things that they otherwise would notice. And he uses Kathy O'Brien, who has spoken now for years extensively about her experience with MK Ultra techniques that were used on her.
Well, so, if you look, we did the FBI chapter, and didn't we get into? I think we did the whole chapter. We did complete it, didn't we?
I think so.
And because it's big, it's over 60 pages, that FBI chapter. It's point 35 in the new book. And when you get into where did MK Ultra come from, because people say, Sheila, you don't mention much about MK Ultra. You guys, I don't know. I wasn't in it. And like I tell you, when Noah landed with the ark, and I can only tell you this is what I've researched. I can't tell you that I was actually there at the time because I wasn't on the planet at the time. And I hope you do believe me, because I'm even saying disclaimer in front of it that, guys, I didn't live at this time, because there are people that that quote a lot of my stuff, and they don't know the research or the background on it, so they can't talk to you deeply about it, and they kind of mess up some of the information because they're just taking tidbits off of what I'm saying, and they're saying it like they were an authority at the time. And that's why I give you guys reminders now and again. Well, I wasn't really on the planet when Noah's Ark landed, and I wasn't there at the time of the Civil War, but God told me from the beginning of doing these books that we've been fighting this since the Civil War. But the Civil War was about what we're fighting now. We have not known this truth until now, but they knew at the time of the Civil War. How sad is that they've covered all this up? But back to MK Ultra. So where did MK Ultra start? Did you know it started with a program called Bluebird? Anybody seen a little blue tweet bird anywhere on social media?
Okay,
Okay,
I think we have seen that in the past from time to time. Let's see if we can. Let's see if
well,
go ahead.
I put the picture up on the social media for Twitter, and about Yoel Roth, also lying about himself, lying in Congress. But did anyone hold him in contempt of Congress? But he lied. He didn't even use his own name and got paid at Twitter under a wrong name. And, so I bring up all these things because you and I can't get away with it, but they can. But the Bluebird program, I put all the documentation in the FBI chapter in the new book, An Eternal Plan. And in that chapter, you're going to see about the Bluebird. Did you know we paid I don't know, 50, 60, 65,000, but this is back in 1950. We paid that money. So now that's almost $1 million, at least 900,000 plus in today's dollars of paying for that program in our taxes. And so, so the humor is we paid for all of this to be done to us. We have paid for absolutely everything that they're doing to us. We have paid for it and paid for the development of it, paid for the execution of it. And so it's not just the textbooks we have to worry about. It's not just the teachers who were indoctrinating the youth, because again, only the only people that can stay, remember in the COVID in the hospitals, the only people that could continue their jobs, the only people who could do anything were following the rules from the club. And did you know the club didn't get vaxxed?
Congress didn't get vaxxed.
Everybody under their control had to get a vax to keep a job. And if you didn't get it, you didn't get to keep the job. So if you didn't get it, if you wanted to go to Italy, you couldn't do it unless you got the vax. Yep. That's not their decision. They can't. We're not in a dictatorship where they can tell us what we can and cannot do, but we fell for it. So everybody thinks, oh my gosh, I'm never going to comply to what they want me to do. And that was the hardest thing about writing this book about the 45 points. We've complied with all of it. We've allowed the culture to disintegrate. We've allowed art and entertainment to go to such a level that just isn't even acceptable to most people anymore. But that was their plan. Because then if you keep harping on it and you say you don't like it, boom. And Kennedy told us back in the 1960s, I think we have a little quote from him to share that in the 1960s, he told us.
We do. There it is.
There's a plot in this country to enslave every man, woman, and child. Before I leave this high and noble office, he was telling about the Knights of Pythias, the high nobles. We didn't know any of this. I intend to expose this plot. 7 days later, he was gone.
No, we just saw this week a lengthy a set of documents delivered from Russia to Anna Paulina Luna, one of the Congress people from Florida. And in there's an amazing couple of pages in addition to information about his assassination. But they indicate that there was a back channel set of conversations going on, apparently between Kennedy and Khrushchev. And there was I'll call it a plan, because it appears that they were pretty close to pulling the trigger on it, for what they were terming the Kennedy-Khrushchev World Peace Bridge to go from Alaska to Russia. And then with the assassination of JFK, it appears now, and this is my interpretation, that future was stolen from us by what they did to JFK. And we're only now learning of it. I've never heard anything like that been spoken of. But already the same plan is now looking like it's a potential to move forward between Putin Putin and Trump. Wouldn't that be amazing that we recapture the vision that appeared to exist back when JFK was alive?
Well, and I shared this out on Twitter. It came from Il Donaldo Trumpo, and guys get frustrated with me going, Sheila, that's a parody account. And I said, but he's been asked many times by the press. And they go, sir, we just have to know that we know, because they've asked him so many times, are you Il Donaldo Trumpo? And he turns to the camera and goes, yes, I am. And Il Donaldo Trumpo brings up those glasses and the gold necklace.
Yeah.
And but he's confirmed it many times, because that's the only way he can get the messages out to some of the people.
Well,
and that kind of humor gets the other generations aware of it.
That's right. Recall, too, that Il Donaldo Trumpo showed up when? Right after Trump's own Twitter account had been wiped off of Twitter itself. So the timing alone is very, very interesting.
Well, and I don't know. This is a Sheila thing. I don't want people saying, oh, this is a confirmed decode. PAPI Trump, Pappy Trump instead of Poppy Trump. They called Poppy George H.W. Scherf, who went by Bush in America, Jr., who was President 41. That man was called Poppy because of what? He was the one in charge of the poppy fields. It wasn't just in Vietnam and then the Agent Orange issue. They didn't care about our troops. They were protecting the poppy fields for heroin. And they didn't care what other chemicals were in it. So let's spray all of this. But anyway, it was the same thing in Afghanistan. People don't realize Afghanistan's poppy, what would you call plantings increased by like 250,000% or something. And that we had no idea that they were doing any of these kind of things. But calling him Poppy Trump was because of that. And people didn't know. So it's interesting that he goes by PAPI Trumpo, and makes it like it's Spanish. And don't you love all these Spanish connections? And they said he does have Spanish in his lineage, and it could even be connected with someone in Puerto Rico. So I've checked. I haven't found anything about Puerto Rico or anything about that. But I do know that people were wrong about the Hebrides revival, that his mom was at the Hebrides revival back before he was born, and the Hebrides revival didn't happen then. And she was already here and married and already had a son. So, there's just, we got to be careful what we're saying, because we're repeating things from human and not checking with the Father. And we want to make sure going forward that we're saying what is truthful and what the Father confirms, because they have rewritten history. So people will go in other books and say, well, I see that so-and-so has said this, Sheila, not what you're saying. I said, that's great. Check with the Father. Because the Father is who I check everything with, because the only one who knows the end from the beginning, the only name that represents truth and life is Aleph, the Lord over all. And there's only one living Lord. So I'm hanging with him. And I'm thankful that he's hanging with me. He's put up with a lot from me, because I'm not easy, because I've been lied to so much, and the trust factor is on the forefront. So when people wonder, well, why didn't you just accept that? And I go, got to check it out.
Yeah.
You should have accepted it. Don't you know that guy has 285,000 followers? And I said, I don't care. I got to check it out.
Yeah, it doesn't make any difference. We're seeing people now that I think we are finding people to be proved to be something other than what we believe them to be. And I won't name anybody, but I think folks are spotting it, and they're saying, wait a minute, why is that person saying and acting so negative to Trump or to something around Trump when they've claimed to support him for 4 years, 5 years? And yet we are in fact seeing that. I find it too, you mentioned that people need to listen to the Father, and I find it very interesting that one of our most successful segments is exactly on that. Get tight with the Father. It was our last segment that we did. And people apparently all over the world have paid attention to it and are looking to see what guidance you've provided and what that may mean, and what they may need to do in their own lives to actualize that.
Well, I'm so grateful that I'm so grateful for what you're saying and what you're revealing, because I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't be on these programs with these people who just want, can you give me a hot headline? I get these text messages every day. What's the hottest news you got, Sheila? And can you give me a few minutes and tell me? No, it's just, I can't keep being diverted, and I hope you guys don't become diverted constantly. Those disruptions are going to keep you from doing what you need to be doing. We all, in order to form a more perfect union, every one of we the people has to be doing what we can do. I'm doing this, and I'm checking out an option to do like a 5-minute little podcast, or a blog, just to get words out, just to get information out. But I don't, what Bill is doing, I don't have the ability, and I don't have the time to do the research to put a podcast together and content and script it out. And if I was just going to be talking, I love the questions. I love the questions you guys send in to him. I love the questions that he asks, because it prods me to hear what the people want to know. And then Father is right with me the whole time. And people keep saying, I just love Sheila's wisdom. Please don't say that. I can't take credit for God's wisdom. My people perish for lack of knowledge. That's step one. If you don't try and gain knowledge about what's happening, then you will never be able to sit with the Father to gain an understanding of what all of that means, because the world isn't going to tell you the truth. They've never told you the truth. And now you're finally finding out all they do is lie to you. So everything you believe is false. And I can honestly tell you how exhausted I used to be when I tried to answer all these things where people said, I don't have any other source on what Sheila Holm is saying. Great. Go to the Father. He'll confirm who I am. He'll confirm what I'm saying. And it was driving people to the Father, which is kind of fun, because that's what we're supposed to do. Take them to the feet of the Father. They say the feet of Jesus, but it's the Christ has the power. I've never seen a witch or a voodoo priestess levitate off the ground in my presence when I say Jesus. But as soon as I say I represent my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and anything you want to say unto him, you can say unto me now. Boom, they're off the ground. They know they're on holy ground. They know more about what we're dealing with than what we know, because they have spent the time. We haven't spent the time, because we believe that what they tell us in a few minutes on Sunday is all we need to know. That's no relationship. And that's why in the new book, it's not just to know the Father and to know his name. Are you in relationship with him? And I'm getting the most wonderful responses where people are saying, I didn't think it was possible. I just did a 3-hour conversation with the Father, and he was talking just to me, and he was answering my questions, and I was getting direct answers. And it's for all of us. How many times have I said, God doesn't love me 1 ounce more than anybody else who's hearing this message? Yeah. And I didn't get all this stuff. And when you see all this horrific stuff I went through, guys, I had no way to go through it, but he would take my hand and bring me through. And he would tell me in advance, he knows who's behind the scenes doing this to me. And that's why he would say, you're trusting this person. They should have none of your trust. And then I'd have to sit back and think about it. They should have none of my trust. Well, they're telling me great things, and they're so grateful to know me. And how do I know? Because, and that's what you were just saying, Bill. We didn't know who these people really were, because they had a front that they showed to the world. Yeah. And that's what it is to be in the other kingdom. Believers, and that's why we have to unite together. My whole focus right now, we've got to unite together as fast as possible. As many souls are at stake, and people keep trying to save people. And I'm going to give you this because of the wonderful things you just said, Bill. It's empowering, and it encourages me. And now I'm going to not shut up for a little bit. So here we go. So what God told me is, you keep spending your time on the same people. And it's because when I meet people and they're so intriguing and they have such amazing information, I hang with them. You know what I mean? And then Father said, you're hanging too long. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, if it takes 1,000 touches of their heart for them to realize who I am for them, it doesn't matter if you're number 575 or 999. You may not be the person who's going to see them come to me and desire relationship with me. So you got to keep walking. You got to keep going. And that's why I share that simple prayer. Father, I thank you for doing whatever it takes to bring whoever the person is, or the family, or the neighbor, or the neighbor's house, the household. You can put it all in there. Father, I thank you for doing whatever it takes to bring them so tight with you that all they hear is your truth and all that comes out of them is your truth. Guys, we're in that hour in this world. Everybody thought it was so bad before the Civil War in 1847 that Christ was going to come. But Father never loses hope in us. And people are saying now we only have a couple of years left, Sheila. It's all been predicted. It's all in the signs of the heavens. I don't care. If Christ is at the right hand and he doesn't know the day, Sheila Holm doesn't have to know the day. It's possessed until he comes. And my job is not done because he's brought me through. I was targeted a second time after Lynn Woods on my back. And I'm coming through that one too. And so no matter what they do, and I'm not trying to challenge anybody to keep doing all this stuff to me because it wears you down. But Father's going to bring me through, and I'm going to get these other books done somehow, some way soon. And I never thought I'd be doing the book that just came out. I never thought I'd be setting everything aside and it would become so urgent. Guys, in 2014, it's a faith walk to share your testimonies and stay in faith with the Father. He will take you places. He's taken me to nations I didn't even know the name of. And he used his dime, not mine. And the things he's done with me just because I stood with him. I had no other option. I had no other way to go. And so please don't let yourself get in that position. But then what did you tell the people? That's the storehouse principle. So we start a blessing cycle. So ask him today who you could bless. And as you start a blessing cycle, it comes back to you. That's a major boomerang. And you won't even know how or when it's going to happen, but it happens. And that operating in that turns into God's currency so that he taps the shoulders of people that you've been talking to. Those people bless you, then you can bless somebody else. So what do you have excess of that you can bless somebody? And then ask Father who you can give it to and just start it. Just start writing personal notes to people to encourage them. Write positive text messages thinking about you today. You know, you are so special to me, blah, blah, blah. Tell them what is going on. We aren't doing anything to unite together. And once we do that, we create a network of people that are blessing each other, forming the body of the true believers, because the church is crumbling. The church is Gentile worship. It's not going to stand. And when it all goes, and Father's not going to put up with it much longer. He warned us in the Nineveh lesson with the 3 eclipses by 24. And so he said, I'm on this nation. I'm focused on this nation. Are you going to be the tribes that I'm going to retain after I destroy, like he destroyed Nineveh? He got his tribes out. When he got his people out, he went to the king and said, that's it. You'll never know where they are. That's why they're known as the lost tribes of Israel to this day. Everything has meaning. Everything has true meaning. And the Father wants to do that. Then you can operate in his currency. So it doesn't matter if the world currency collapses. Why? Because you're with him and he's providing and supplying for you. So he resides in the praises of his people. So keep thanking him for what you do have. Yeah. I learned in the church to keep making lists of what I want him to do for me and what I need him to do and what I need him to give me and what I need him to arrange. He's not my call him up and order God what to do. I never thought of it that way because I didn't learn anything different. And every day I would tell God in my prayers, well, you're doing really good on 7, 8, and 9, but 10, 11, 12, you're still, I don't think you're even looking at them. So let me go through those again so you know what it is that I want you to do. I didn't even know I was doing it. So if you're doing that, please stop, because that's the way we were trained. And it's okay. And God knows, I'm sure he laughs about it because he's not mad at us. Who he is upset with are the deceivers, and the deceivers are everywhere.
Yep. I've heard it more than once recently that, people, I think, and I hope, and I pray, are realizing that their approach to the Father has been flawed by their teaching, flawed by what they've been told to do. And more than once recently, I've heard, I noticed these very interesting coincidences, and they don't seem to be coincidences anymore. They seem like they're little either messages or gifts, or I'm seeing things that I just didn't see before. And I am hoping that is indicative of folks gaining a better godly awareness of what's around them, because they, on so many occasions over the last several years, people have said, I don't think there's any real coincidences. Some of this stuff you can't even do the math to figure out what it would take to have these 2 or 3 things happen in sequence. And I hope that people are largely doing that. I was lucky enough to speak with one of the doctors who's known all across the country. Some years ago, I was interviewing him, and I was confounded by his statements about, well, the people in big pharma, doctors, must know that these things that they're doing, these shots that they're asking people to take, are doing harm to at least some of them. And now we know it's been doing harm to many of them. And I said to him, well, how could you explain that people don't see this? And he said, scales on the eyes. They aren't ready to see it. And until God gets them ready, they probably won't. And we have to pray that something will happen where they acquire the ability to see. And that's going to come from the Father. So,
well, they took over the medical industry. They took over every industry, and that's in 36 and 37. It's not just expanding the unions; it's take full control of the corporations, all business, and the vaccines. The vaccines are not for us. We don't need anything injected into a believer's body. We were sent here wondrously made, and we are made in His image. And that's why they have to affect the water, the food, the medicines, all these medicines they're giving. And look at the multiples of that. I mean, and they're not supposed to do the commercials on TV anymore. Look at what they're doing with that. And so, but the gift is the people who are seeking the truth, but keep thanking Him. Thank Him that He provided truth about what these doctors are doing, because you can't really convince them. The medical industry was taken over. The medical schools were taken over. The doctors have to do this or they don't have a job. And they're interested in helping the people, and they're told what's going to help the people. And they're lied to, just like the history books were rewritten and we were lied to. Everything has been a lie. And so if you think of ancient times, I mean, Methuselah lived to 967, 987, something like that. I know the main number, but almost 1,000 years. Can you imagine living almost 1,000 years? And he didn't have problems. They didn't have all these dentists and worry about fluoride in the water, and they didn't have all these problems. Just like the Hopi Indian guy, and go HOPI on YouTube and ask for the video Hopi Elder in the 1970s, and you'll get a beautiful video out in the country, and you can hear the wind in the speaker, the microphone, and he's going to tell you. What you think we might be stupid not getting running water into our houses? We know what they want to put in the water. You know what I mean? It's like none of this is new. Nothing that you think they're going to be doing, and you want all these modern things. They've done all this before. They've come in, made all these manufacturing things, made all these great items. They had computers in the times of the Mayans and the Aztecs. None of this is new. None of this is new. None of the learning of the truth is new. It's just people giving the truth were removed. That's the difference. But if you keep thanking Him for revealing, thanking Him for revealing to that doctor, thank you, Father, for doing whatever it takes to touch his life and his family's life, and to come to your truth so that he can share the truth with the people. And then God takes care of it. When He had me do that trilogy with that workbook back in 2014, I was only going to do a testimony book, because that's what everybody said. You're going to have a testimony book if you're going to keep speaking like this, Sheila. So get a testimony book out. So I thought, well, okay, Don, if you want that, God, I'll do that. So I worked on that. And then He immediately had me do the Storehouse Principle for the blessing cycle. And then He said, you've got to do a workbook. So, because even my pastors don't know how to tithe anything other than money. I want the people blessing. If they're attorneys, give some of your time away. If you're mechanics, give some of your skills away and only charge people for the parts. I mean, just do whatever you can do. And if you can donate parts or find parts for the cars for the people, but start with the widows and start with and remind me to tell you about a church that tried this north of LA, and it was just powerful. Up in Camarillo. So what happens is he told me to do that, then the workbook, and then I thought, I'm done and I'm exhausted because all of this has happened in just a few weeks. And then within 2 months, 8 weeks, God has me do the God's Currency book. And so within 2 months, from mid-February to April 18, which happened to be Good Friday, and Good Friday was when they stole
Wow.
everything out of my accounts before they filed a case against my corporation.
Oh,
And God
goodness.
said, this is to heal for what they did on Good Friday to you. But he does not, Good Friday is not God's holiday, and Easter Sunday is not resurrection. So anyway, but he did that in 2 months. And I said, why did we have to do this so quick? He said, it's that urgent for my people to know the truth. I was like, whoa. So I thought, I'm not doing any more books. And then I hadn't put out the Nation Restoration book, and they were demanding that. So I did that in July. And then I thought that was done. And then he had me do 6 books in the next year. And then, it just, I had no idea that it was heading to this. And it was information that nobody got or understood. Because once you get in it with him, you forget you didn't know all that stuff. And that's why I'm so honored that he carried me and took my hand through all of this, because I can explain to you there's a way out of every situation that you're in. When I was hit really hard, it was a bad situation. It's in the Nation Restoration book. But the week before, what did God do? He introduced me to a guy in Chicago. And this guy in Chicago was being chased by a guy with guns. I've been chased by men, but I haven't seen guns and I haven't heard guns, but I get away from them with God's help. But this guy was being chased and they had guns and they were shooting the guns. And so he finds himself and he turns in and it's an alleyway and it's a dead end. You can't continue in the alley. It's a dead end. And he told me he went through this whole process, and powerful man of God that lives in Chicago. And he said, I'm going through this whole thing. God, how do I protect my eyes? Because it's like they can rebuild my mouth, they can rebuild my nose, but I don't know about the eyes. And so what he did was he put his hands like this over his eyes. To this day, he has impressions deep into the palms of both hands. The bullets fell to the ground and confirmed that that's what they did. And when the men realized he was divinely protected, they ran. Because it didn't kill him, they ran from him because they knew what was in the in-between. Just like with that voodoo princess or priestess. I didn't know she was a priestess. I told you guys about. And if you haven't heard that, write to Bill and we'll go over that again. But what she tried to do with me is take me out, and Christ was right in front of me. It's like a glass wall and nobody can penetrate it. And so when they come at me or spit the neon green, and that's how he shows me their other kingdom, Sheila, just say bless you and keep walking. And so it's these experiences that I pray you will take on, because the big thing to remember is we're not dealing with the name of the man you're dealing with or the woman. We're dealing with the powers and principalities operating in them that have made them feel like they're superior to you and can do these things to you, get away with what they're doing to you. And that's why you have to bring God in the mix. And that's why you thank him for doing whatever it takes to touch their hearts so deeply, bring them so close into the center of the family. They can't escape.
That's amazing.
We have the power and authority. We're the ones that change lives. Because right away, people say, Sheila, I'm in this terrible situation. Will you pray with me that God will help me somehow, some way? I said, whoa, wait a minute. And people doubt. Fear, doubt, and unbelief are the tactics of the enemy. That's why I did that devotional. Fear, doubt, and unbelief is going to keep you from going through the storm so you don't get to your miracle. And that's exactly what the enemy wants. And call him the enemy, call him Satan, call him the devil, call him Baal. And people say, well, Sheila, Lucifer is a different entity than Satan. What does it matter? They're all dead gods. What does it matter?
Well, that plus Satan goes by 1,000 names, doesn't it?
Yeah. And who cares? They're all in the other kingdom and they're all dead.
Yep.
So what are they going to do to help you? And that's why the gift is to get to the point where people walk up to you. And this is what I love so much. Please, please sit with me and tell me about this God that blesses you. Because I never knew there was a God that blesses you. And that's why people aren't interested in what believers have to say, is because we've been drifting off so much into Gentile worship that our lives are so messed up that we're not representatives of the living Lord who's accomplishing something, who's turning people to him every day. That's our whole goal as you walk. Bless them. Is there anyone where you can see to their needs? But it doesn't mean just hand money to people. What it means is, Father, who can I bless on this day and represent you in such a way that they will come tighter with you? Show me, Father. because he's the teacher. He's the one that can get you there. So when you write to Sheila and say, well, how can I do this? Here it is. Father, I thank you for doing whatever it takes to bring this person so tight with you, because God, they have such potential. Such potential. Thank you, Father. May your truth get so deep in them, all that comes out of their mouth is your truth, because you have to get all that other stuff out. And the only way to get that out is for God to be able to do what God can only do with those people.
Yeah. Wow. What a wonderful session we've had. Let me remind people one of the sources that you've called on a number of times in this discussion: Nation Restoration, along with your other books, the one that we've talked so much about in past segments, An Eternal Plan, and the series that you have out.
For the Sake of America. There's 5. There's going to be 7. I've got to get going. But an eternal plan always trumps a human plan. That was more than 2.5 years of research. That was a heavy duty, because of the timing we're in. Souls are at stake.
So we will hope and invite folks to go to your website, hisbest.org, right?
Yes.
To see more. There's that wonderful video that we showed at the end of our last segment, and interviews that you've been on, but also access to the books and other things that you've produced so that they can learn more. And next time, I think we talked about, are we going to finally talk about the Georgia Guidestones, perhaps?
I think we're gonna delve into that. And if you have the new book, I think we should, because it matches up with points 40. We did 42 today. Well, pretty much we did the symbols already, so we pretty much did that one. If there's anything missing, we'll finish that one and do 41, 40, and 39 and 38, because it's all about destroying the family. And that's what the Georgia Guidestones were solidifying, is depopulation, is, there's even signs that they're putting on people's windows in California saying, help us. We need you to kill the white women in this country because we don't want them to procreate. It's on the windshields of cars. They're looking for the people doing this. This is how evil can be.
Yeah.
So, but I do want to mention something to people. I have a new website administrator, and I want to apologize. Any of you that went to my website to get a book and thought, "Woo, I'm gonna go to Amazon," the guy that I had was almost operating against the process. Wasn't putting the interviews in, wasn't getting things done. And we just found out with this new administrator, who's only been looking at this for about 10 days. He finally found out today, because I said something's wrong. And when you went on to click for the new book, it would automatically default to an international shipping fee of $35, and the book is $30. And that is not true. And so it wouldn't change until you're in the shopping cart. But I can tell you, I would never go to a shopping cart with a shipping fee of $35 for one book. And so they found the errors. That's just one of them. But guys, it's been so insightful. I knew there were issues. I kept working with GoDaddy to clean up the issues, and now I just had to pull the whole site away. I brought it to GoDaddy to clean it up, but that wasn't as effective. But I got a lot of things done, and I'm not a technical person, but I with their help, I got a lot of things cleaned up. But what this guy is finding now, and I really want to apologize. So if you had that experience, I want you to write into me, because he's going to try and get me all the names and everything of the people. And so if you write into me and let me know how to get a hold of you, because we have that list of names that came on to buy the book and then chose not to. And I didn't know this was what you were seeing. And so we're going to do something special for those people who weren't blessed by that experience. And just please know, I did not set it up that way to charge you like that, because that is not what you're charged in the checkout. So they're cleaning all this up. The checkout process is much easier. And the interview process is going to be much easier. You're going to be able to see, it's going to be more like going on YouTube and choosing, say you're going to be clicking through and choosing instead of seeing that scroll. They're cleaning everything up. So I just pray for them. Wonderful guys. It's a group of guys I've known for a long time, but I just didn't feel that I should bother them because they're doing so much, but they're doing it, guys, and we're getting it cleaned up. So just thank you so much, and please let me know if you had that experience. We're going to do something special for those of you that had that experience.
Very, very kind of you, Sheila. All right, we are excited to get back together with you in about a week. And we'll look forward to hearing more. So thank you again for being here. It is always a joy, always a pleasure. And I know from the comments that we're seeing that the people appreciate it as well. Thank you.
Well, we've been doing every week. You want to keep this up, huh? You want to put yourself through this every week. We can, if you want to go through this, we can go through this every week if you want.
You can't argue with what works. You can't argue with what the Father is suggesting that be done, right? So.
Well, bless you.
Bless you too. See you soon.